Yeah, this is crazy. So, got to cover it. Hey there. This won't be a very long one. I just wanted to come on and read this because it's crazy. Who would have ever thought we would have saw this day? This is insanity. So I'm going to read it and then I'll leave it up for people to come back and read it. But it's just wild that we're here with this. I know. It's shocking. It really is. Just, yeah, because of him possibly leaving. That's what I was hearing too. So, oof, for decades, Sean Combs, aka all of the names, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, and Love. The defendant has abused, threatened, coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influences of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Sheesh. Wow. Sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. He's going away like forever if they can prove this. Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, all the names, the defendant, operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of US based corporation entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs Business. Corporate entities in the Combs business included, among other things, a record label, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and persuasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse at times was verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of this abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. Ugh. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangement for women and the commercial sex workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. Okay, wait. So there are these women, and he manipulated them by drugging them or supplying them with drugs or threatening their careers. Okay. So he wanted these shows put on for him with these women and other men? Commercial sex workers? Is this guy okay? And he filmed it. God. Physical abuse by Sean, the defendant, was recurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions, from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. These assaults were at times witnessed by others, including one instance at an LA hotel in March of 16 that we all saw, was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman who was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure his silence. His violence was not just limited to women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. Sean used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors and other close associates, acted as his intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. From at least in or about 2008 through on and about the date of filing this indictment, Sean and others, known and unknown, were members and associates of a criminal organization, Combs Enterprise or The Enterprise. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other things, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of prostitution, coercion, and incitement to engage in prostitution, narcotic offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. He is so screwed. Like, he's so fucked. The Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1961-4. That is a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. The Combs Enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, the defendant, entities within the Combs business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, Combs Global, individuals employed by and associated with the Combs business, and others unknown and known. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. Combs Enterprise was engaged in, and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. They're going to get him on RICO. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. The Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, was the leader of the Combs Enterprise. Sean, the defendant, and others known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprise affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistant, high-ranking supervisors, as well as close associates. All right. The purposes of the Combs Enterprise include the following: operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, recording studios, apparel line, alcoholic spirits business, marketing agency, television network, and a media company. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs, the defendant, as a musician, entrepreneur, and figure in the entertainment industry. Enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Sean and willingness to conceal his crimes. Sheesh. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs Enterprise, including of its leader, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to his sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers. Enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transport for the purpose of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, other crimes, and concealing the commission of these acts. Securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats. Let me ask you this. This is a very, very successful man. Why does he need to do all of this? Why? I don't understand why. You had all of this going for you. Why the hell would you need to do all of this shit on top of it? Means and methods. Among the means and methods by which Puffy, the defendant, and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs include the following. Combs and other members and associates wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into his orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. He then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male sex workers that Combs referred to, among other things, as freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sexual performances that he arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasting multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. During the freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Sean kept videos he filmed of the victims engaging in these sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. What in the actual hell was he doing? Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs by, among other things, booking hotels for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel room in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substance, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, lighting, and cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, resupplying Combs with the requested supply, delivering large sums of cash to him to pay the commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. Lord have mercy. In or about March 2024, during the searches of his residences in Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Sir, what exactly are we doing here? What exactly are we doing that you need all of this? Combs subjected his victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in the freak-offs. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promise of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. Ugh. During and separate from the freak-offs, Combe, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, dragged victims, at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days to weeks to heal. He also threatened victims' careers, livelihood, including if they resisted participating in the freak-offs. Victims believed they could not refuse his demands without risking their financial or job security without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. He also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating records that he made during the freak-offs as collateral to ensure they continued to be obedient and silenced. Jesus Lord. Members and associates all carried firearms on more than one occasion. He himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including the victims of and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, during searches of his residences in Miami and LA, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR 15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Sheesh. Members and associates of his enterprise enabled his control over victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victim's career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances he used to keep them quiet. Members and associates at times witnessed his violence towards the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Sean without intervening. Instead, members and associates helped conceal the violence and abuse, among other things, assisting him in monitoring and preventing the victims from leaving locations such as hotels or residences. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from the injuries he inflicted without being publicly observed. Members and associates of the enterprise also assisted him in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. Jesus Christmas. Yeah, where can you go? Who could you go to? Nobody. Nobody. Puffy, woo woo. I sure haven't seen that Puffy forever. When employee and witnesses to his abuse or others threatened his authority or reputation, he and members and associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputation harm, or verbal abuse. These included kidnapping and arson. Sheesh. In addition, on multiple occasions, he threw both objects and people, as well as hit, dragged, choked, and shoved. When his authority or reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023, following public allegations of his crimes, he and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay silent, not report what they experienced or knew to law enforcement. On phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims and witnesses with a false narrative of events in order to conceal his crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions. Racketeering. You are so screwed. From at least in or about 2008 through on or about the date of the filing of this indictment in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean, the defendant, and others known and unknown, being persons employed by and associated with the enterprise, described in paragraphs 6 through 12 of the indictment, an enterprise engaged in the activities which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws. Oh boy. That is to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of the affairs of Combs Enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. These consist of multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of the law: California Penal Code 207, kidnapping; Penal Code 21A 664, attempt; California Penal Code 31, aiding and abetting; and California Penal Code 182, conspiracy. Multiple acts involving arson, chargeable under the following: California Penal Code 451, arson; Penal Code 21A 664, attempt; Penal Code 31, aiding and abetting; 182, conspiracy. Multiple acts involving bribery, chargeable under the following: 137A, bribery of a witness; 664, attempt, aiding and abetting, and conspiracy. Multiple acts indictable under Title 18 U.S. Code Section 1512, relating to tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant. Multiple acts under Title 18 Section 1589, related to forced labor. Multiple acts indictable under Title 18 1591, related to sex trafficking. Jesus. Multiple acts indictable under 18, 24, 21, 22, and 2, relating to transportation and inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution and other illegal sexual activity. Multiple offenses involving the possession with intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics, controlled substances, including cocaine, oxycodone, alazapram, 3,4-methyl-methamphetamine, 4-bromo-2-dimethoxyl. I know what that word is. What is this one here? I know it stands for something specific. Dimethylthoxamexylene. What the hell is it? I got to look it up now to get the right name. Dimetaoxy. It is known as, I don't even know if that's the right one. No, dimexy. Whoop. Hold on. PHE. The fuck even is that, dude? Chemical compound. It's a neurotransmitter. What in the actual, what's the street name? It's called 2C-B is the street name, and it's a psychedelic drug. Oh, a psychedelic drug. Thank you, Lacey. I'd never heard of that. Never heard of it. Gamma hydroxybutyric acid, ketamine, in a violation of Title 21. All of these sections here: distribution and possession with intent to distribute, and conspiracy to do the same. It was part of the conspiracy that Sean, the defendant, agreed that a conspirator would commit at least 2 of the acts of racketeering activity in the conduct of the affairs of Combs Enterprise. Notice of special sentencing factor. Oh boy. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs Enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Sean, the defendant, agreed to, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide. Sorry, I got a call. Obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18, U.S. Code Section 1591E2, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act in violation of Title 18, Section 1591A1 and B1. Count 2. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. Victim number 1. Ooh. The grand jury further charges from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in about 2018, Sean the defendant in and affecting interstate, foreign, all of these things that we just read, advertise them, threats of force, did the same thing, transported, did all the terrible things, and willfully cause victim 1 to engage in commercial sex acts, knowing and in reckless disregard of that fact, victim 1 was engaging in commercial sex acts as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. Count 3. From at least in or about 2009 up to 2024, the defendant knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that that individual engage in prostitution, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same, to wit, Combs transported, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of female victims and commercial sex workers in an interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. He's like Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Is that what we're trying to say here? Forfeiture allegations. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1 of this indictment, Sean the defendant shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18 any and pay all interest the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18, U.S. State Code, Section 1962, any and all interest in, securities of, claims against, and property or contractual rights of any kind affording a source of influence over the enterprise named and described herein, which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in the conduct of, in violation of Title 18, U.S. Code Section 1962, any and all property constituting and derived from proceeds obtained directly and indirectly to the offense, including but not limited to a sum of money in U.S. currency representing the amount of proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count 2, Sean the defendant shall forfeit to the U.S. pursuant to Title 18, U.S. Code Section 1594, any and all property, real and personal, involved in, use, or intended to be used to commit or facilitate the commission of said offenses, any and all property traceable to such property, any and all property, real and personal, constituting or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of said offense, including but not limited to a sum of money in the U.S. currency representing the amount of property involved in said offense. So he's about to lose everything and go to the prison. Okay. Count 3, he shall forfeit all of the same things as a result of said offense. Same thing. You're so screwed. You're so screwed. Substitute asset provision. If any of the described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant, A, cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, B, has been this is what I was wondering. What if he just transferred everything to his son, or his kids or something? But here we go, because they have a provision in here. B, if it has been transferred or sold to, deposited with a third person. C, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court. D, has been substantially diminished in value. Or E, has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty. It is the intent of the United States, pursuant to Title 18, all of these codes to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendant up to the value of the above forfeitable property. So, I wonder. So, if it has been transferred, sold to, or deposited with a third person, it might be protected in some cases. Maybe. Maybe. Well, hello, Captain K. Everybody else is doing drama, which is, we got 64 people in here, and I understand, I know that there are about 2,500 people watching the drama, but I felt like this was a lot more important. Diddy's somebody that we all grew up listening to know that all of this was going on is absolutely, it's mind-blowing to me. I mean, I've been listening to him forever. So, and, you got to think in a lot of these cases, these guys are getting a hold of like these young fangirls who the parents, even like me, if they're like, oh, Diddy wants me to be in a video and everything looks legitimate, just like with R. Kelly, the young girls that were sent to him and their parents were fine with it at first until they couldn't get their kids back, when they couldn't get their kids back, they're like, what are we going to do now? It's a really screwed up situation when there are people with this much power who can kind of just run shit, and then there's nothing you can do. There should be a hell of a lot that you can do, but there doesn't seem to be. There really doesn't seem to be. Let me see here. So this says, what time is that? It's 11:30. Hello. I was hoping we'd catch the presser, but I don't know if we will. Let me see. Oh, we will. Maybe. Let me know if you can hear this.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs' crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee. As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
Sheesh.
Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. Anyone with information can call 1-877-4HSI-TIP. I want to express my deep appreciation for the victims and witnesses who have used their voices and helped bring this criminal conduct to light. We would not be here without them. I also want to thank the dedicated case agents on the HSI Trafficking in Person Squad in New York. They have been with us since day one and have worked tirelessly on this investigation. They will continue to be invaluable partners to us. I also want to thank the incredible agents and analysts from SCNY who have also provided tremendous assistance on this case. I'm deeply grateful for their continued work. And finally, I want to thank the outstanding career prosecutors from SCNY who are handling this case. Meredith Foster, Emily Johnson, Chrissy Slavic, Madison Smizer, and Mitzi Steiner, and their supervisors, Jamie Backleeper and Jacqueline Kelly. They are members of the Civil Rights Unit in our criminal division. We created the Civil Rights Unit when I became U.S. Attorney. I am deeply proud of their work on this and so many other cases. I'll now take some questions.
Eric Katursky, ABC.
Thanks, Nick. Damian, thanks. The indictment describes aggressive, open, violent, hedonistic abuse that you say was recurrent and widely known. Why did it take law enforcement so long to intervene? How many women were victimized by Sean Combs, and how many others were involved?
Look, our investigation is ongoing. We are committed to bringing justice to everyone who's been victimized by the defendant. I can't tell you why it took so long. I think the better focus is on the fact that we are here today. And we are committed to making sure that justice is done. Next question.
Thank you. Julia Ainsley, NBC.
Thank you for doing this. You said we are not done and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
Janet Fisher, Newsday.
What's the difference between the sex trafficking and promoting travel for the purpose of prostitution?
Well, there are different crimes with different elements. I don't think we should get into the nitty-gritty of the legal discussion right now, but the sex trafficking, we believe, they're all serious offenses, but the sex trafficking conduct carries some significant penalties, and we are gratified that we were able to bring that charge.
Is one more coercive than the other?
I'm not going to be able to get into that, but you can look it up, and yes, sex trafficking, especially when it involves coercion or force, is a very serious crime, and it carries significant penalties.
Good afternoon, Darla Miles, ABC 7 New York. Thank you for this press conference and for the details. Two questions. In context of this indictment and the information that was presented to the grand jury, are you able to clarify the number of victims? It's mentioned plural in the indictment, but can you specify the number of victims just for this particular indictment? And secondly, can you provide details about the alleged arson?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide either. The number of victims, you are correct. We are intentional in saying multiple. The details of the arson incident are limited to what we have in the indictment and also the detention letter that we filed, which contains more details than the indictment does at various points, but we don't have anything more beyond that. Next question.
Lynn Tran, CNN.
Are any of his accomplices or associates under investigation? And additionally, could he face any more charges?
So the investigation is ongoing. That means both as to him and to anyone else who we believe committed the crime with him. Next question.
Juliette Papa.
Hi, good morning from 1010 Wins. Any indication that some of the women or victims here were imprisoned in his residences, and did he have locations where he kept them, and were not allowed to leave? And also, he's indicted here, although there were searches and raids in LA, Miami. Why in New York?
Well, I'm biased. I'm the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. I think that we have an outstanding track record of bringing some of the most impactful, sprawling, complex, difficult sex trafficking, human trafficking, labor trafficking, you name it. The Southern District of New York can do it, and so we're very proud of that. And so the scope and complexity of this investigation isn't something that we ran from, it's something that we embrace, and we will continue to do that. As to your question about whether he imprisoned anyone, all I can say is that, I mentioned this March 2016 incident where something was caught on video, where a victim was attempting to flee, and there was violence that was associated with it.
Was that at the residence or a hotel?
That was at a hotel.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press.
Thanks a lot. Does your office intend to seek remand, or are you reaching a bail package? And if you're willing, how would you contrast this with the R. Kelly case in EDNY in terms of the elements? Thanks.
So we will be seeking detention. We have filed a letter laying out our reasoning for seeking pretrial detention. I'm not going to be able to expand beyond what's in the letter, but it contains all of the reasoning, and it contains the law as well. There is a presumption of detention in a case like this, and we think that's warranted.
John Anise, New York Daily News.
Thank you. I was hoping to get some more detail about the searches of his residence, the guns, the cases of lubricant, and the videos. Where were they found amongst his residence? Were they all scattered around the houses in one place? I kind of wanted to just get a better picture of how that stuff was found.
Well, look, I think that some of the details that you're seeking are in the detention letter. So, for instance, some of the AR-15s, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in his bedroom closet in Miami, broken down into parts, along with magazines, with ammunition loaded in them. So some of that detail is in the detention letter. Beyond that, I'm not going to be able to get into where other items were stored.
Ben Kochman, Post.
Hey, thanks for doing this. Your office was the office that had been prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein before he died in custody. I have not read your detention memo yet. It's the first thing I'm going to do after this ends. But does the memo address, or is your office concerned with Combs's safety in custody, given what happened with Epstein?
So we are concerned with anyone's safety whenever they are detained prior to trial. It's part of our obligations to keep people safe as well. It's part of the criminal justice system. So, but I do not draw any sort of connection between Jeffrey Epstein's suicide and what may or may not happen to any other defendant while they are detained pretrial. And of course, the decision whether to detain the defendant will be up to a judge. Our position is that pretrial detention is warranted under the law and based on the facts of this case, and I'll leave it at that.
Are some of the prosecutors on this case some of the same prosecutors that had been handling that, or that worked on the Maxwell case?
So I'm not going to get into the staffing. I will say that this team, this group of AUSAs, this incredible group has been working on this case around the clock, and they've had their hands full. Next question.
Gus Rosendale, NBC News.
Good morning, sir. Combs' attorney said that his client has been cooperative with investigators. He said that this morning. I was wondering if you would have a reaction to that.
Let me just say this. I think that generally and with increasing frequency, the word cooperative or cooperating has taken on tremendous elasticity, and it no longer really bears any relation to what the word means when we use it in a very specific context. So responding to lawful process and the like does not qualify as cooperation when we use that term here.
Mike Sisak, AP.
Thanks. To that end, was there any discussion of Mr. Combs surrendering? I understand he was taken into custody at a hotel in Manhattan last night, and maybe that wasn't the plan. Can you elaborate on how that came about and why that was?
I'm not going to be able to get into any sort of operational details as to how he was taken into custody and when. He is in custody right now. He will be appearing in court later today.
Was there any discussion of him surrendering, given, they claim he's cooperating?
I'm not going to be able to get into law enforcement tactics or operations. Well, I can't get into the charging decision. It is very meaningful to us that weapons were possessed, as we allege in the indictment. Part of the reason why this conduct was so pervasive and harmful was because victims and others didn't necessarily feel comfortable denying him his wishes, as we allege, because of the presence of firearms. I should leave it there.
Thanks. Last question, Jacob Shamison.
Jacob Shamsian, Business Insider. Thank you. Given that he's the sole defendant in this case and that you allege he's part of a conspiracy that involves members of his companies, do you anticipate a superseding indictment that bring allegations against other members of his companies or other co-conspirators as well?
Again, I can't take anything off the table. Anything is possible. Our investigation is very active and ongoing. And I think a lot of you who cover this office know that when we say such things, that developments are certainly foreseeable, but I cannot predict them sitting here today. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. What part of his business empire is exposed for Richard?
Thank you, everyone.
Oh boy, he's in so much trouble, y'all. He's in so much damn trouble. So now he's in custody. He's in Fed custody, though. So I wonder where they're going to put him. Because they took him down to the feds in Manhattan. I don't know. I think this is the only beginning. I mean, they let us see a lot of what went on with R. Kelly. They let us see a lot of what went on with Johnny Depp. Will they let us see this? I don't know. You got to think, too, maybe the victims, there might be a lot of embarrassment. Maybe they're not going to want this to be public. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people keep talking about Jay-Z. A lot. And Cat Williams, I don't know if the man's a psychic, but he predicted all of this. He said it's all coming. And this is the year of exposure for these people. So we'll see. I know, Lurker. I know. It's going to be huge. Yeah. No. See, they think different in prison, for real. I don't think, sad to say, they use different terms in jail, like punk, bitch, all of those things. I think because he was so powerful on the outside, and there's so many rumors that Biggie and Pac are dead because of him, that, nope. I think he'd be in a lot of trouble. I'm going to go with that. Yeah. I think that, just the same way as any other really famous person in there, R. Kelly didn't try to wield his power. He was just out here doing the nasty with everybody in the damn world, right? But Diddy's really out here doing all the things, the whole East Coast, West Coast beef. He was right in the middle of that. A lot of people were killed. So he was right smack in the middle of all of that. I think a lot of people blame him on both sides, West and East, that because of him and his influence over over Biggie mostly, that it just kept getting propelled bigger. And, I think that people in that genre back there, that era, see him as bad as Suge Knight. So, I don't know. I guess we're going to see. Yeah, this is way worse. He's in a lot of trouble. Yeah, maybe. True Texan. Yeah. Maybe. But see, that's another thing. So if he has the potential to expose somebody like Jay-Z, for example, I agree with your statement that he may end up Epsteined, right? But I think what he was doing is finding vulnerable teenagers, young 20s to participate in this stuff. Vulnerable girls that he could twist up their mind, put them on drugs, promise them a career, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't out here trying to scam, or he wasn't out here throwing parties like Epstein was. Like, Epstein's island was for perverted ass political figures, stars, public figures who wanted to do the deeds with underage girls, right? If you think you're going to expose the Clintons, the Trumps, all of those people who were on the island, you're not. One of them had enough money to make sure Epstein didn't kill himself. You know, I think in this situation, yeah, he had Hollywood parties for sure. But I think what they got Diddy for was more of his personal nasty ass bringing these girls in, having them sleep with commercial sex workers for his own pleasure. I don't think it was like on the level of bringing in political figures to watch these sex parties with him, the freak offs. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you there. I do. And it depends on whose names are going to come out. It really does. The more connected the name, the worse it's going to be for him. International Human Ring, you're right. Thanks, Sleuth Investigates. You became a member. So it's funny, over here it shows it red. That's very interesting. Sleuth Investigates became a member. So this is a brand new system for me. This StreamYards decided that they were going to double their price. I don't know. Because like I said, I think Epstein, he was trafficking kids. Let's just say what the fuck it is, okay? Exactly. I don't know. I think it depends. It's going to depend. Thank you. We have some really good people here. We do. We really do. I love my people, Dirt West. I know everybody was so interested in everything that's going on today with the whole, I don't know, SF calling Seth whatever, I don't know. Two kinds of monsters, different kinds of monsters. So it sounds clear, good. So maybe this is better than the other one, because I had so many problems on StreamYards. But this one seems better to me. I like it so far. So I guess, I don't know, we're going to see. And there's different themes I can use. Let me see. I don't know. Boop. Beep. I don't know. I haven't worked it all out yet, but I'm just playing with it. So I am too. But here's my problem with that. There's a lot of quiet because there are a lot of children testifying, right? So what I did was created it myself. I downloaded it and then edited all the quiet out for the first day and the kids. Then that way they're in shorter bites. So I'm about to upload it here shortly. Thank you. We have a very good group of people over here. Yeah, he definitely did, but that's another thing. Our boy's going to come out and tell, there's that mentality that you don't want to be seen like that, especially in the industry. So I don't know. Me too, Elizabeth. Me too. After seeing what went down with R. Kelly, you got to really wonder, like, what? It is. So I'm just going to put them all together. And I think that I'm about to upload it right now. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to upload it, but It shouldn't be bad, I don't think. Because day one was like, there were 3.5 hour streams. The actual day, the whole thing was 1 hour and 20 minutes, I think. So once you work on them and get them down, they're not very long, because there's a lot of cutting in and cutting out. So I am uploading that right now. It's probably be up within the next 35 minutes. So y'all are appreciated. I appreciate 75 of you coming in here. I get it. I know. I know the drama is on, honey. I said, well, I'll watch a drama later. I catch up on the drama later. It's the same drama from yesterday. What the hell's the difference? I mean, today it's this one being an asshole and doxing that one. Tomorrow it's this person yelling about the father. The next day, I want to see 1,000, 1,500 people on the stream when this child's found. How about that? Can we do that? We'll see, right? We'll see. You too. Hey, Cam. All right, off I go. I'm uploading that right now. You were gone all weekend. Nah, MC, I mean, I'll listen to it while I'm sitting here making candles or doing whatever. But do you guys all know about the Darlie Routier case? Because I cannot recommend enough. It's called, I listen to it while I'm going to sleep too. It is called, and if you don't know about her case, oh my God. This podcast is called Beach House 34 Official. Beach House 34 Official. Go there. She has the entire court transcript and she reads it. And she's got a great voice. You have to go there and you can listen to the entire trial, because we never got to see her trial. So there's so much information in it. You got to do it. Makes me angry. That's not healthy. Same. I know. I get it. Oh, yeah. Sleuth Investigates. It is. Definitely go check out Beach House 34 Official. Do it. You'll be there forever. There's like 90 to 150 million episodes, and it's so good. So it happened in your neck of the woods. You got to listen to it. I'm telling you. Because there's a lot of details in there I had no idea about, because nobody can really cover the entire trial. It was really long. And just hearing what she had to say about her sons, and oh my God, it was heartbreaking. It killed me. I listened to that last night as I was going to bed, and it made me too sad. I had to put something else on. But anyway, court TV last night. Stop it, MC. I went and pissed myself all the way the fuck off. You know that I did. Soon as I got up this morning, did all the things, and then I'm like, oh, Court TV did something on Summer Wells. Let me listen. I wanted to punch everything that I could find. I was so aggravated after watching that shit. I don't have words. They did a thing on Summer Wells, and they had Chris McDonough up there. It was just really so fucking frustrating. So frustrating. Because he won't consider anything else. He won't consider anything else. He's such a fucking... I can't with him. I won't. Yeah, say no more. Oh, I did. Yeah, what happened? I did. So it was live. People were attacking who? Chris or the Wells? Probably the Wells, right? Nothing at all. Not a thing about Summer. Nothing. It's insane. It makes no sense. I put underneath their video, I said, The parents could definitely be guilty, right? Of course, they could be. But this man here, with his credentials, is the reason they get so much hate, and he needs to take fucking responsibility for that. You know, not like Vinny's gonna ever listen to me, but still. No, you don't, lady. It's absolutely nothing. It was a nothing burger. But, you know, if you want to hear the theories from two detectives, I like the one guy because he was, you know, giving other ideas, you know, of things that could have happened and pointing out other cases. But Chris, nope. He's like, oh, oh my God. See, I'll get mad. This is why I don't cover summer. Chris McDonough said Don Wells introduced the red truck. Have you ever heard that in the 3 years? That he's the one who introduced the red truck? He said it right on Court TV last night. That's when I shut it off. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do it. Because he's allowed to just go out there and say whatever the fuck he wants to. Right? Like, when? When? Nobody's ever said that. I can't. See, I'm going to get mad and I got to go make candles. All right. I love you guys and I will see you in the streets. See you later. Look out for Carly's video. It'll be uploaded in just a minute.